Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast. The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Well, across the world on the internet at michaeldukeshow.com and around the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello, my pretties. Good morning and welcome to it. Hump Day, middle of the week. Oh, baby, you could see Friday from, you could smell Friday from here. Smells like gunpowder and happiness. That's what it's all about. Welcome to the program, and thanks for coming in and joining us. It is the Michael Dukes Show. What have we got? What have we got today on the agenda? Well, it's good news, bad news. The bad news is that Mike Shower is unavailable this morning. Unfortunately, we were hoping to have him on for the Shower Hour of Power, which will probably have to happen sometime next week instead of this week. But the good news is we've got a suitable replacement in the form of State Senator Shelley Hughes, who will be joining us this morning in hour two to go over and discuss with us what exactly happened with the formation of the Senate bipartisan majority. What exactly went down from their perspective, and what is it that they, being the unofficial minority, the three musketeers of Shower, Hughes, and Myers, what did they offer in the formation of this? What did they try to do? What did they try to pull together? And what was the reaction from the folks there in the Senate? And we're going to talk with Shelley Hughes about that, get the full rundown, and have that discussion, all of it in hour two this morning. So that's the plan, the plan, as we like to say here on the old radio show. In hour two, anyway. In hour one, but we're going to kind of go over some of the headlines that are floating around the state, some of the things that I've seen that caught my attention, and we're also going to discuss the plan, which is what I like to call we're going to figure out exactly what are we going to do over the next couple of years. What are we going to do until the next big election? How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to get our viewpoint to be heard by a group of people who seem just immune to common sense, who just seem immune to the idea that we should live within our means, that government should not be the end-all be-all of every decision and every discussion, and that we would like to have, please, sir, please, if it pleases the crown, could we please follow the law and give us our full PFD? I mean, that's kind of where we're going. So the question is, what is the plan? I don't know. That's why I'm talking to you. I have some ideas. I have some thoughts. I'm wondering about this, but I don't have, I don't have a full solution. The chat room is already sounding off on this morning. Sandy says, here's the idea. The plan is stick together and quit eating our own. I think that should be a huge component of it. Brian suggests that we all become ungovernable. Just become ungovernable. That's the plan, which, I mean, sounds delicious, but also, I guess, counterproductive in the long run. I don't know. But we're gonna talk about that. And yes, we're going to try and rule out the whole vote harder plan, because that's obviously not working, especially under the current electoral system. It's not working. Voting harder isn't because look at what happened. We had a voter turnout that was well below 2018. And in fact, I haven't seen the final numbers from Tuesday's announcement, but prior to that, it was literally the lowest voter turnout proportionally since they started tracking this stuff. I mean, that just means that people are throwing their hands up in the air and saying, I'm done. And they just wander off and they quit participating. And I mean, I hate to say this, but I mean, look, we are a representative form of government. We're a constitutional republic with a democratic style voting system that's proportionally representational, which means it's a participatory sport. I love that word, participatory. It's a participatory sport. You have to participate. You can't just throw your hands up in the air and go, you can, but you ought not to, right? You ought not to just throw your hands up and walk away. The people feel like it doesn't matter. Some of that could have come from, some of the confusion or questions on how the voting worked, or on previous experiences with voting irregularities or whatever. I mean, again, whether it's true or not, perception is reality. People are worried. And so, yeah, we've got to, we have got to say, but the eating your own part, I think that is huge. The eating your own part, I think, is a big part of it. And we saw that. I mean, just look at the formation of the Senate coalition. You have 8 Republicans chastising and shunting to the side 3 other Republicans. We saw it during the election when the leadership councils, the party leadership councils, gave money to people who were running against incumbents that were very well liked by their constituencies. Why are we doing? Why this infighting? Why would Senator Peter Micciche, as the Senate president who had the power to direct some of this money, why would he spend a bunch of money against Mike Shower? Could it be possibly that it's about personalities at that point? They just don't, I just don't like him, so I'm going to try and get him out. You guys are supposed to be on the same team, right? We're supposed to be, but see, since there were only R's in the seat, now I get to pick my R, and yada, yada, yada. And it is just exhausting to watch some of this stuff go on. And, like I've said in the past, and like I said earlier, I mean, I think it's got to start being a question of whether or not is this really an R versus D scenario, or should we be relabeling and rejiggering these contests to be really about more pro-government spend versus less government spend? Government is the solution for everything, or government should be as small and as efficient as possible. I mean, I think these are viable questions and concerns. So ruminate on that for a bit, because I want to get into it, and I want to open up the phone lines and talk with you about it. So let's just plan on getting all of those things put together and talking about it here in a few minutes. I'll make sure the phone lines are I'll make sure the phone lines are up and running right now. And in fact, they are, in fact, up and running right now. So we'll get into that here in just a minute. Meanwhile, a couple of the headlines that are going on around the state, some of the big stories. Oh, we've already got somebody. Somebody's been on hold for a while. Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to you here in just a second here, caller. You've been on hold long enough as it is. Just give me a minute here, and I want to get to my headlines that I wanted to talk about this morning. The people in Stebbins, boy, I got to tell you what, I feel bad for those folks. Not only did they get slammed by Typhoon Merbok back in September, yesterday morning at about 4 a.m., the only store in town caught fire and burned to the ground. The store and the fuel company that were next door were both a total loss. And so now there is no nearby options for purchasing necessities like food. St. Michael's, which is about 8 miles away, is expecting a big shipment, and they're going to truck it over. And apparently they've turned the store or they've turned the laundromat into a temporary store or something. And so there other groceries and supplies that are at Nome and Unalakleet are going to be trucked over from St. Michael's once they get there. The hits just keep on coming for these poor folks living out there in Stebbins. So that's I feel bad for them on that. Big headache and big heartache for them. Mayor Dave Bronson, for those of you who live in Anchorage, Mayor Dave Bronson has announced his budget vetoes to the expanded budget. Remember, the mayor produced a budget that was about $583 million that was delivered in October and said it was going to be about almost $5 million under the tax cap. It was still an overall increase of about 3% from the 2022 revised budget. But the Assembly said, well, that's not quite enough. And they put another $3.6 million into the budget and passing what is essentially the largest budget in the history of Anchorage. So Bronson, he vetoed a bunch of the stuff in there, including there was a lot of money for Brother Francis Shelters, for an expansion of Brother Francis Shelters. And yet the mayor continued to go through on all the various pieces and parts of that and said, the Brother Francis Shelter, the management there has stated that it's going to stick with its 120 person capacity and is not able to increase the shelter services, which they gave them hundreds of thousands of dollars for. They put together a package that would be, again, just what I see right here, almost $1.1 million that they are giving to Brother Francis Shelters for expansion. And Brother Francis has kept saying, well, the organization has expressly stated that they're committed to sticking to their 120 client capacity for the foreseeable future. Anyway, the mayor is, I'm sure, going to receive some pushback on this, and more than likely will probably, they will try to override some of these votes, but he's trying to do what he can for the citizens in Anchorage. The largest budget in history, and just never satisfied. Government is the answer, my friends. Government is the answer. And then I saw this story out of Seward, which caught my attention. The city council of Seward voted Monday to postpone an approval of limits on short-term rentals. Now, this is all put together by the Seward Planning and Zoning Commission, and I'll be straightforward and honest. Planning and zoning commissions are not my favorite group of folks. Why? Because I think they have a huge propensity to violate people's private property rights. I saw it in Fairbanks. I fought very hard to have property rights grandfathered in for many different types of businesses and properties, including general use properties. And I'm seeing it being weaponized and not allowing people to be able to do essentially anything, with their property, as long as they're not hurting somebody else, doing something with their property. So this story caught my eye. The legislation that was considered on Monday would prohibit new uses of entire houses as rentals in residential zones. require short-term rental insurance, and implement fees associated with individual short-term rental units. And this is due in part to the rise of things like VRBO and Airbnb and other things where people were renting out facilities or houses that they didn't have a need for, and were making a little money. And this really, bureaucrats really don't like this. For a couple reasons. One, in a lot of cases, it circumvents the whole bed tax thing, and they don't get, they don't get the revenue that they need. They see it as upsetting their master plan for, city planners. Those guys, like they could actually plan a free market city, and everything else. In the long run, and I'm going to too long, don't read it here for you. Essentially, in the long run, the council members ultimately voted to postpone the legislation, and they're going to hold a joint special meeting with the city's Planning and Zoning Commission to further discuss it. Here's my suggestion, and this story is in the Peninsula Clarion. You can go read it if you'd like in its entirety, because it's a very interesting story, and I don't want to I'm coming up on the break here. But the long and the short of it is this. People should be free to do with their private property what they want to do. They are already having to pay taxes to the crown to be able to exist in a place that they supposedly own. And now you want to come in and restrict their uses. I'm not talking about people building a nuclear reactor in their backyard or, having pig farm or something like that in an area that's not zoned. I'm talking about somebody who wants to rent out a bedroom for a weekend or for a whole summer or for a whole year. It's really none of your damn business. As long as they're not throwing wild parties on the streets, blocking up all the the parking, keeping everybody up in the neighborhood, I don't see why this is a big deal. Leave people alone. Get out of their way. Get out of the way of people. If they're paying their property taxes and doing everything else, you should shut your pie hole. As you can tell, this is something I'm a little passionate about. My suggestion is get out of the way and stop letting those planners in there like they're going to plan. You cannot plan human nature in that regard. City planning is All right, we got to go. We got one call on hold, and I apologize, caller. I know you've been on hold for a while, but you're going to have to wait till the other side. We're going to come back, and you'll start first with, I guess, the plan. I had some other headlines, but no. We're going to be back. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay. We are in the break right now. Let me go over to the phones and get this caller's name and where they're calling from so that we're all on the same sheet of music. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Mike. My name is John. I'm in Fairbanks, but
Okay.
I'm from Seward, and I can't agree more with what you just said.
All right. Well, hold on,
I
John.
said the
Hold
same
on,
thing.
John. I know you've been on hold, and I appreciate it, but hold the line. I want to talk to you on the air. So, where it's just me and you and 50 folks on Facebook right now. We're not back on the radio yet. So I'm going to place you back on hold. And as soon as we come back onto the air, you'll be the first thing that we do. Okay. We're going to talk to you first. So you can restart that here in just a minute. So hold the line, John. I've got you loaded in. First of all, I have to question your sanity moving from Seward to Fairbanks. But other than that, we're ready to talk to you. It was Fairbanks. I mean, all right, let me go back up here and see what you guys are having to say. Good morning, Burr. Yeah, no, it is. My daughter has still not put my curtains back up on my window here in the back of my studio, and the air is just pouring off the window over my desk. And so I don't know if you can hear it, but I got my heater running underneath the desk today because it is chilly burr here. And in fact, it's getting almost too hot. I got to turn the heater down a little bit. There we go. We'll do that. Okay. So hopefully that'll still keep us warm without burning us up. But yeah, definitely a little chill today. Many of those that run for office are on an ego trip. So that is the reason why we many times have two R's running against one D. No sacrifice for the good of all. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Democrats are very good at the kumbaya communal, we're all a village kind of thing, where they're very good at that. And we, as rugged individualists on kind of the conservative side of the fence, I mean, we don't always play well with others, and we believe that somehow, we can't take a look back and go, what is the overall best thing here that could happen? Anyway. Republican Party doesn't put forth any viable conservative candidates in Alaska. That's also partially true. Luke says, I say tax people who don't qualify for the PFD and work in the state. That way all the seasonal workers make a contribution. I think you'd find that would be challenged legally. I don't think that would be a viable thing to happen. Let's go over here. What else we got here? Interesting to see in the news the people in China protesting over COVID. Yeah, I know. Can you believe it? This is how you get killdozer, says Chris on YouTube. Killdozer, for those of you who don't know, is somebody who was pushed to the breaking point over their private property rights. Pushed to the breaking point over their private property rights. That's 100% true right there. All right. Well, this says I have a minute left, and this says I have 30 seconds. Which one do I believe? Which one do I believe? Well, I believe this one because that one can't possibly be right. Who on the zoning committee owns a hotel, says Jason. That's the thing. I mean, these planners, oof. How to find a pig farm. Go east until you smell it and south until you step in it. All right. All right. That's the full rundown. Okay, we are about 50 seconds out from rejoining the radio. We do have John on the line, and we're going to talk with him first things first. And then we're going to see what else you guys have to say. I guess that means I should turn the phone lines on or show the phone number and do all that stuff. As we get ready to do it, The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Share the show, like this video. Here we go. Let's get it done. Shall we? We shall. 7 seconds. All right, welcome back to the program. We're continuing now on this sorry. Continuing now on this beautiful Wednesday. I had another timer going and it just started dinging off. We're ready to go on. Let's jump back over to the phones. John is in Fairbanks and he's been waiting for quite a while, so we appreciate him joining us this morning. John is in Fairbanks, but apparently originally from Seward. John, what's on your mind this morning? What would you like to talk about?
Yeah, good morning, Mike. I couldn't agree more with you on the situation in Seward. And I said the same thing to Randy Wells, who's one of the council members. There's no apartments available. There's nowhere to rent in Seward. And it's funny because I won't say her name, but one of the ladies on the Planning and Zoning Commission has one of the only apartment complexes in Seward. And you can't find a single place to rent. You might be hard pressed to find one apartment or two, or maybe a trailer, but there's nothing else.
Yeah. Well, this is a common problem in many areas. Homer's experiencing the same thing. There are many areas where the housing, you keep hearing about it, the housing crisis. A lot of this housing, whether even in places like San Francisco and things like that, a lot of this crunch comes from the fact that the government intervenes at every opportunity when somebody wants to build something. And that is part of the problem. Get out of the way. I'm not talking about letting people put up a 5-story ramshackle thing that's going to collapse and kill everybody. But I'm saying when people have their property and they pay their taxes and they do all the other things and file the permits and let them be. Leave them alone. Give people the opportunity to build and folks will come. Like you said, there is a huge demand.
Well, I agree. And, in Seward, there's nothing there to buy. You can't even buy a stick of wood in Seward. You can't buy a sheet of plywood. So, but anyway, Mike, I wanted to change the subject a little bit. I drive long haul, and I just come in this morning, and I want to just share something with Fairbanks. Kind of crazy news, but you would have thought there was a circus going on at Coldfoot. Evidently, I don't know if it was a state trooper helicopter or Alyeska pipeline helicopter or a survey, but somebody recently landed Bell Jet Ranger there up on the Koyukuk River. You could Google this. It's Koyukuk Mining District Monster, but they got a video of a 15-foot Sasquatch, and it's on the move. And I mean, it's massive. It dwarfs that helicopter. And everybody knows about it, but the news, they don't talk about it. And nobody knows why. But it's just something that I thought maybe I'd like to share with the people and to give them something to think about today. But that's about all. Mike,
did you say they have a video of it? Is
everybody
that what you said?
drive safe and have a good holiday.
John, did you say they have a video of it now? Is that what you said?
Yeah, there's a minute and 15. There's two videos. One that shows a still shot of it and a negative at 7 seconds, and then there's another one. I think it's about a minute and 15. But they were 6:50 a.m. at radio in Anchorage. They were talking about it a couple of days ago, and somebody called down from Prudhoe. But anyway, yeah, it's crazy. It's things are like Jesus said in the end days. All these things will be revealed, and of course, we're seeing it down in Washington D.C. and it's just crazy times that we're having. That's all.
All right, John. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, I love me a good monster hunt as much as the next guy. And I know Alaska is supposed to have a lot of.
Oh boy, I'll
never
go in the woods up there.
I know
there have been people disappearing up there, but yeah, look up Koyukuk Mining District Monster. But
okay.
Anyway, thank you, Mike.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you for calling in and joining us. We'll see what we can find out about that. Appreciate it. Thank you for calling in. All right. 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150 this morning. We might as well dive into the plan and start talking about how we handle this. Now, first and foremost, I'm going to say that the first thing we don't do is we don't just throw up our hands and walk away. You can't, it's like I said, one of my favorite verses of scripture is, you don't grow weary in well-doing. And I believe that. You've got to keep trying. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. You got to just keep trying your best. On the other hand, the other thing I don't think we need to do is, as Chris is like to say in the chat room, we don't need to vote harder. We don't need to vote harder because it's obviously not, and that's a joking thing to say, just, go out there. The problem is that even though we may be encouraging people to vote, there's more and more people who are, again, throwing their hands up. Now, the question is, of how to fix this. Other than stay the course, stay true to our roots of smaller government, keep talking about that, keep bringing people into the equation, and keep trying to educate people, but also not being a polarizing figure. That's one thing that I will say. If somebody doesn't agree with you, make sure that you're not the one that's tearing them down. Right? Don't be that polarizing figure. That's what I'm trying to say. But other than that, I mean, I don't have a real I know that's what I'm supposed to do, right? Well, you're supposed to have the solution, Mike. You're supposed to go on the air and already have the solution and explain it to everybody. I'm at a loss, quite honestly. I mean, I'm still in shock over what happened during this election, that some of the people that got elected, especially in places that, I mean, again, I'm not trying to pick on you guys down on the peninsula, but I'm just wondering what the actual hell went on down there. You guys are supposed to be one of the reddest places in the state, and your two conservative candidates got kicked to the curb by, I mean, so, I mean, I don't know. I don't know at this point, but it is I do know that it's a hot mess. So, where do we go from here? I really would love to have your thoughts on what we do. Where do we go from here? How do we do it? What should be the plan? And like I said, I mean, I have some thoughts on it, but it mostly revolves around keep on keeping on. Keep calm and keep going. I mean, just, that's it. Keep going. Like I said, I threw the idea around last week that maybe we should just embrace a flat tax and surprise everybody with it. I don't think that's going to work. But I can tell you right now that what is going to happen here in the next couple of years is that they're going to basically consume all of the PFD, and then we'll be right back where we started, only this time they will be talking about taxes. That's what's going to happen. All right, I got two lines on hold. And I just looked up, and folks, I actually have to take a break. So you two lines on hold, you stand right there. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to get your name and where you're calling from during the commercial break, and we're going to come back to you here in just a second. The Michael Duke Show continues. Your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more right after this with your phone calls. Don't go anywhere.
We're broadcasting live through a series of tubes,
allowing all of these entities to provide streaming stuff going on the internet.
Well, it's kind of hard to explain. Sorry. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Man, GCI strikes again. I saw that I dropped off for a lot of you. Please check to ensure the Facebook streams. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Hold on a second here. I just want to make sure you're about to view a broadcast on Facebook. Blah, blah, blah. And hopefully we are up and running. It looks like it. Looks like we are up and running. Okay. So I got an error when everything rejoined. I got an error on Facebook. What free market freedom? Unfortunately, people have forgotten how that works. Yes, Michael, you are not incorrect on that. Let's go over to the phones here and see who's on the line and get their name and where they're calling from, and we'll start off over here right now. Good morning, caller. Who's this, and where are you calling from?
This is Bonnie in North Pole.
Okay, Bonnie, you hold the line, my dear, and you will be first up in the queue. We'll be talking to Bonnie here in just a minute. Let me get caught up in the chat room. Facebook is messing up. Hey, YouTube is stable. Yeah, exactly. Morning. Good morning. Good morning. Apparently everybody switched to MTA, says Terry. I had MTA to begin with, and I will tell you, as much as I dislike GCI, MTA was worse. Twitch is working fine. Yeah, the Facebook is up and running. My dad just rejoined, and he's back on there, and I see Jack's on there, and I see Chris is on there. So yeah, I really don't know. I really don't know what happened, other than GCI struck again, just arbitrarily out of the blue. Boom. Have a nice day. You are now disconnected from the servers. Is it not even showing it at all right now? Well, I guess that means that everybody's going to have to. I guess that means that everybody is going to have to. Why is it not showing it? Okay, well, whatever. If you're still on Facebook, then do it to it. How can it? Where if streaming to Facebook is possible, the stream is entered, deleted Facebook. Keep trying to let you know if it's resolved. Please check Facebook to ensure the stream looks okay. Try creating a new broadcast or just remove this destination and then re-add it. I can remove this destination and then re-add it. Okay, we'll try that. We'll try that. Like, we'll add it again. Save changes. You can add it midstream. That's amazing. That is amazing. Facebook is back up. Oh, man. Facebook is back. You can add it midstream. I had no idea. I had no idea that you could actually do that. That is amazing. See, sometimes you learn new things. Through adversity comes new things. It's amazing. Facebook is back up. So have a there you go. Have a good day. All right. So Bonnie's on the line. We're back, says Chris. Yeah, I don't know. I just discovered that I can actually end the stream and re-add the stream in midstream with this other. Anyway, I know I shouldn't be excited about that, but for my sake, I was excited about it. I thought I was going to have to stop anything. One of the things I hate the most about the cold isn't the cold. It's the fact that everything likes to break in the cold. It's true. I mean, as much as I love the people in Fairbanks, I am so glad I'm not there right now. I mean, as much as I admire all those folks, I just got no interest in trying to slog it out. I mean, Mother Nature always wins, right? I mean, it's like we're in a battle for Mother Nature. I'm never leaving. I'm never giving in. I'm always going to be here, no matter if it's 50, 60 below and I've got frostbite. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to fight it out. You're never going to win. I would much rather stay in the state of Alaska and be slightly warmer. This is about as cold as I want it to get. It is currently 6 below at my house. That's about as cold as I ever want it to get. In fact, I'd really rather it be in the tens and teens again. Or, it could be down in Kodiak. But they said, what was it Paul said yesterday from Kodiak? It's 33 degrees. Oh, thanks, Paul. Thanks for rubbing that in. I appreciate that. All right. Ugh, what a morning, says Tony. Yeah, it's been kind of all over the place, hasn't it? I'm still running everything off my laptop. That's the funniest part of this whole thing. It's actually going smoother than my regular desktop, it seems like. Although yesterday I spent a couple hours, I finally got my other computer to boot back up. We'll see if we can keep it rolling. All right, we got to go. We're jumping back into it. Bonnie's on the line. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like a chair. Here we go. All right. Welcome back to the program. Thanks for coming in and joining us. The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio, broadcasting live across the state of Alaska. This is your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Bonnie is on the line in North Pole. Bonnie, what is on your mind?
Oh, Dukes, I know you live in the Banana Republic there.
The Banana Belt? I live in the warm belt of, yes, I do. I live in the subtropics of Alaska here. It's only 5 below at my house. What is it, 30 below at your house?
I don't really care. I love Alaska, so I'm going to be here. Anyway, we're going to move on.
Okay.
We're going to talk about Alaska for honest elections.
Okay, Alaskans for honest elections. Who's that?
It's a group that's getting together, and it's going to be a meeting at 6 o'clock tonight at the Roundup on Cushman.
Okay.
Be getting petitions to get rid of ranked choice voting.
Okay. Well, that's great.
So if you would care to participate here in Fairbanks, North Pole, anywhere in the area, you need to come and see what we're going to be about.
Okay.
We'll put a period in it, and we're not going to talk about in the past. We're going to move on.
Right. Talk about moving forward. How do we repeal ranked choice voting? I would hope whoever's organizing this is also working with the other places around the state to do that as well, because I think, one of the dangers here is that there's already another petition to repeal ranked choice voting. And so I would hope that we're not duplicating efforts. We don't have 2 or 3 different groups with 2 or 3 different ballot languages that are trying to pull it all together. Hopefully they're all working together and have the same language. And like I said earlier, I think you should have 2 or 3 petitions at once, one to remove ranked choice voting, one to enshrine the PF, or one to put a spending cap in, and one for term limits. I would love to see that. I would love to see 3 and 1 where everybody just signs 1, then they sign 2, then they sign 3, and we're able to then go out and collect signatures to get them on the ballots. I would love to see that. But tonight at the Roundup, 6 p.m.
Yeah, it's on Cushman.
Yep.
The Roundup's on Cushman.
Yep, Roundup's on South Cushman there, right across from Lithia.
Yes,
or Nissan, Fairbanks Nissan. I'm sorry, not Lithia, but Fairbanks Nissan. Okay.
No, where?
Yeah, it's right there on 28th. It's 28th and Cushman. That's exactly where they're at, the Roundup Steakhouse. All right.
I'm going to put a period in all the crap that's been going on in the world, and I'm going to move on and talk about something positive.
Just put blinders on and look forward.
You have to think positive. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because you can't do anything about anything. So when you're pointing your finger at somebody else, the finger always points back at you. And what can you do about it?
Right.
So I'm going to move on. I'm going to mind my own business.
That's really some good advice, Bonnie. I mean, look forward, don't look back. I mean, yes, we could rehash every injury and every problem that's happened. Let's just look forward. How do we fix how do we do it going forward? I think that's a brilliant idea.
Well, I have to apologize. I'm going to use my tools of Al-Anon, because that's part of the tools that I use in my life. Because you can't do anything about what anybody else is doing, even though they're doing, you don't like.
Right. Yeah.
Because you have to figure out what you're going to be doing about it to make yourself happy. So I'm going to move on and not talk about all the other gobbledygook crap, that went on. And because I'm thinking we're going to do something positive, because I love it here in Alaska. So I'm going to move on and hoping that'll be a positive thing. So I hope to see people tonight. I'll be there at 6 o'clock. So thank you, Michael Duke.
All right. Well, thank you, Bonnie. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming on board and joining us today. We appreciate that. All right. That leaves all 4 lines open, or 5 lines, or however many lines I have here. I don't know. I think one time I had 6 people on the line all at once. So I don't know what the limit is, but all the lines are open is what I'm trying to say. 907-433-3150. Rob Myers in the chat room just said only one group has submitted to the Division of Elections for removing ranked choice voting so far, Alaskans for Honest Elections. So it sounds like that's the group. So good. I had heard about one. I know Sarah Palin signed one, and I know somebody was talking down on the peninsula about putting something together. I just didn't want to have multiple, like I said, duplication of effort. Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. So we'll see what we can do. I encourage it. I mean, I will sign it. Somebody somebody who knows somebody who's part of Alaskans for Honest Elections, have them give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's get it done. I'll have to go to the Division of Elections and see if there's a contact information for the group, and who can I help? Who can I help get the word out? That's what I think, as far as the plan goes, that should be part of it. Eliminating ranked choice voting, I think, should be part of the plan. I would love it. I would love to see it. So stay the course. Stop being divisive and polarizing, meaning if somebody disagrees with you, you don't rip them to shreds verbally, right? Because that just, you're trying to convince people. Even if you walk away and you haven't convinced them, at least they should say, boy, that's really a nice guy. I don't agree with him at all, but that's really a nice guy. And yes, let's eliminate ranked choice voting. And, let's get more people involved. Let's convince them that their vote does matter. I mean, look at this. Tom McKay's race, 4 vote difference out of what? 5,000, 6,000 voters? 4 votes. You can't tell me. Bart LeBon's race, not this time around, but last time around, was a 1 vote difference. You cannot tell me that your vote doesn't count. Sorry, that's not how it works. Of course your vote counts. Let's see who else is on the line here, and we'll figure out where they're calling in from. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Brian calling you from the exciting metropolis of the Fish Hook.
Oh, the Fish Hook, man. Is it cold out there today?
Not as bad as it was yesterday. I think it was about 7 when I rolled out of bed this morning.
Oh, okay. Not too bad. Not too bad.
Threw some logs on the fire and started coffee, and life is normal again. Hey, I just thought I would point out something. And this would be my admonition to every district chair, party chair across the state. That you need to have stamped in bold letters on your letterhead and make it a part of your loyalty oath when you stand to say the Pledge of Allegiance. They can't cheat if it ain't close. And I think that it's time that we get past this constant, we lost because they cheated or there was some sort of election improprieties. I am all in favor of cleaning up the election rolls and doing election integrity. But to hang the totality of our movement of the soul searching on, they cheated, ain't cutting it. It just doesn't.
It's self-defeating.
It doesn't render well.
Yeah.
It's very self-defeating, and it does not render itself or display well when you're trying to elicit participation and convince people of your way, of your policies, of your platform. It's just time to get past that, and I know that's going to piss off a lot of people in the chat room because it seems like that's the whole reason we lost. It isn't. The Republican Party had a crap message. They did very little. They're self-defeating.
I would agree.
But to solely lay the blame on the Republican Party is made up entirely, as far as I know, of volunteers. And for the more conservative, more limited government people, you ceded that ground to the party insiders. And if you want to take back the Republican Party, you're going to have to take it back one precinct, one meeting, one person at a time, and you're going to have to be willing to fight.
Yeah.
And I keep hearing this admonition, we're going to really get mad this time. Oh, you just wait. Oh, yeah, next time, everybody's going to rise up. No, it hasn't happened. That majority out there, the silent majority I keep hearing about, no, I think it's a myth. And nobody can prove to me otherwise.
I mean, I agree, Brian. I think that's this whole thing of the sleeping dragon and all this other kind of stuff. We just haven't seen it. What people are happy about is that people are comfortable with conformity. They're comfortable with business as usual. And if we want to take back the party, you know, if we want, and again, I'm not a Republican, but if the Republicans want to take back the party, then they need to step in there and actually do it and not focus on the path. I mean, what you're saying is a fancier way of saying what Bonnie said. Quit looking, put a period on it, put blinders on, and look forward. How do we fix it moving forward?
Amen.
You know, and like you said, election
Yep.
integrity, cleaning the rolls, doing that kind of stuff, that's all fine. But quit looking back at the past and crying about the past because we can't fix it. You know?
No, we've proven it's not fixable.
Yeah,
I mean, look at you're fighting an entrenched bureaucracy, and hell hath no fury like a bureaucrat scorned.
Absolutely. Brian, hold the line for a second. We're coming up on the break. All right, folks, we got Shelley Hughes coming up in just a second. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Brian, I wanted to give you a final bite at the apple here, buddy, because, I mean, I think you're right. I think we have gotten lost in the past. We have got, you know, here's what we've fallen into, the blame game. Oh, this would all been fine if back in 2020 something would have. It's a blame. Figure out what went wrong, figure out how to fix it, and move forward. Right? I mean, that's the thing. You got to analyze, retarget, reorient it, and reshoot. I mean, that's what you got to do.
Yep. And figure out what went wrong. And don't make those same mistakes again, and move forward one foot at a time. And to keep pinning it all on the past, exactly. It creates a death spiral.
Right. It's a self-defeating, right? I mean, it's just a negative feedback loop. You just keep going into it and into it and into it. And it doesn't matter. You can't, until somebody invents a time machine, you can't fix what went wrong back there. Sorry. And there you go.
Yeah. And really, if you even the time machine, then be self-defeating because you don't learn anything from it.
Yeah.
So learn, move forward, and, don't exclude people from the process. Discourage people because you're going to go, what the heck, they're cheating anyway. Stick this on your masthead, stamp it on your forehead, and preach it to your children. They cannot cheat if it isn't close.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
Thank you for your service, sir.
Well, I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks for listening. And as always, I appreciate your thoughts on this. It's good to know that there are, folks out there giving this some thought, and I appreciate that. Thanks for coming in. All right. We're ending it with Brian. Apparently, during that conversation, Facebook crashed again. I don't know if it's a Facebook problem. I don't know if it is I don't know if it's a Facebook problem. I don't know if it's a GCI problem. I don't know if it's a Michael Dukes problem. It could be any one of those things. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that for nothing. Yeah, it says that the video has ended. It ran for 16 minutes and then crashed again. Damn. That's disheartening. Let me try and I'll restart it. And we'll try it one more time. I don't know what to say. Okay. So I've restarted Facebook yet again, and we'll see what's going on. Must be a Facebook issue as far as I'm concerned. All right. Well, Shelley Hughes should be joining us here in just a second. It's hard to weld a broken shaft. Do Republicans just want to fight, or do they want to win? We need a cogent strategy, says Kevin. Says Kevin McCabe. By the way, Kevin, congratulations. You and I haven't had a chance to talk since Tuesday. So congratulations, my friend. I'm glad to see that you're back in there. I know that you're girded for the fight. I don't know what else to do. Everybody should just come to Twitch. We can pay to sub to you, says AK Steel. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to pay for a Twitch sub, that's great. I'd love to see that. I don't know. Twitch is such an interesting platform. And it's, I threw it on there because I was looking for a third platform that was easy and viable. But I think I'd rather have you guys go onto YouTube and just, everybody watch on YouTube and and subscribe and ring the bell there and do all that kind of stuff. And then I could even put subscriptions on YouTube if you wanted to subscribe for extra content or extra videos or whatever. I don't know, but nothing happens until you get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. I mean, I got 4,000 followers on Facebook, but I can't get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube right now. So I don't know. Maybe I should just advertise it. Maybe I should just buy some Facebook advertising and say, come out and see me on YouTube. Elon Musk is taking down Facebook. David says, I hate to see an effort to remove ranked choice without some very, very serious strategy. It cannot be a limited effort. It needs a national group backing it, or it will lose, and we are toast forever. I agree. And I know that there is some national momentum to try and do something like that. And I'm hoping that these Alaskans for Honest Elections folks are courting some of those folks. So it's crazy. Congrats to Kevin. We need to find a way to support Kevin in this fight. Is it true that you had to pay $28,000 of your own money to fight a bogus ethics complaint? I don't know if it was that much. I know that he did have to fight an ethics. I'll let Kevin talk about it, but I do know that there was some bogus BS going on out there. All right. Where are you, Shelley? What are you doing? We confirmed. Joining? Question mark. All right. We're about a minute and a half out here, and I'm waiting for Shelley to jump into the jump into the thing. $30,000 yet for this bogus ethics complaint, and it's not even gone to court yet. Yeah. Lawfare. That's what they call that, lawfare, which is the law warfare, where people are using ethics complaints and other things as crazy. She's cleaning out her office broom closet. Yes. Oh man, it's insane. $30,000, and it hasn't even gone to court. I do remember that Sarah Palin, when she was fighting all those ethics complaints at one point, I heard the number got floated over to me that they were $70,000 plus in legal fees at one point. And that was not even at the end. That was about 2/3 of the way through. $70,000 in legal fees that they had to pay. That's just insane. Just insane. All right. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast. The Michael Dukes Show.
The greed and the entitlement is astounding to me.
What more could you want from a low-budget radio program?
This is a dumpster fire.
That was just BS.
It is time to get a new perspective.
We know just what you need, and we've got just the cure. Open wide and prepare for a steaming hot cup of freedom.
I just don't fathom it.
The Michael Dukes Show, streaming live across the world.
Across the world on the interwebs at michaeldukeshow.com, where you'll find links to the audio-only live stream, links to our social media sites where we simulcast the radio show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, and, of course, links to the podcast, which is available on Castbox, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, and of course, Spotify. That's the best way to do it. And of course, let's not forget, even with all those new fancy stuff, that we are broadcasting live on regular old terrestrial radio across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. So, hi and good morning to you. Want to remind you that this hour of the program being brought to you by friends at Satellite West. SatelliteWest.com is where you'll find them. And if you haven't gone out and checked them out, you should. No matter where you are, no matter where you go, there you are. And no matter where you go and there you are, there, wherever there is where Satellite West can give you connectivity to the rest of the world, whether it's phone calls or text messages, emails, or internet. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. They will keep you connected. Satellite West at satellitewest.com. Thank you for sponsoring the program. We appreciate you being part of it today. Okay, well, Shelley Hughes is supposed to be joining us. I sent her a text message this morning, and she thumbs up to me, so I don't know if she's just got behind the power curve here. She's having she just restarted. She's having technical difficulty. She was trying to join the broadcast this morning, and she's having some technical difficulties. Okay. So she's going to rejoin. She's going to join us here in just a hot second, and we're going to be talking with her about what's going. There we go. Anyway, we'll see her in just a hot second. In the last hour, if you missed it, we were talking about the plan. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it because I am a namer. I can name things beautifully. What is the plan for us as smaller government conservatives, Republicans and libertarians alike? What is it moving forward? What do we do? And I think at the base of the plan should be what Brian and Bonnie both talked about. Stop looking backwards. Stop being bitter about something that happened in the past. Whether you believe it's 100% true or not, whatever it was, stop looking just look forward. Don't live in the past. Focus on what you want. Put the blinders on and go. I think that's important. Don't grow weary in well-doing. I think that's also another thing. Anyway, I think it's great. So I want to get down into that and talk about those things. But oh, I had something on my shirt. I didn't even know it. Let's go over and talk to Shelley Hughes, who joins us this morning from an undisclosed secret location to discuss all things politic. Good morning, Shelley. How are you doing?
Hey, good morning. Actually, I don't mind telling where I am. Well, I'm in Palmer.
That's fine. I mean, I just
good morning.
Undisclosed secret. It sounded fancier when I said it that way, so it is what it is.
Good
morning.
Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties. Sometimes we don't do the restarts as often as we used to do. I'm bad about turning things off, and so had to do a restart. So apologize. We're a couple minutes late.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. I'm just glad you made it here this morning to discuss things. All right, Shelley. Well, look, I don't want to rehash every battle or everything that went on, but I am interested because I know that you and Shower and Myers, that the three of you specifically, did try to work with the Republicans in the Senate, and you attempted to organize. And so I kind of I don't want any mudslingings per se. I just want to know exactly what was offered and what you were told, and where we go from here, because you guys are you're a minority, really. You're a minority of a minority, because you can't even get the 5 to be able to get on any of the councils or the committees or anything else. This is a tough deal. So I guess start us at the beginning and tell us, as it all came down, what happened and how did you guys end up out in the cold, so to speak?
Okay, so we'll rewind back 7 years, but we'll do that 7 years really, really fast.
Okay.
So
All
for
right.
7 years, you guys have talked about plenty. Walker vetoed the PFD. So for seven different times, there was contention over the amount of the PFD, and some of us have stood strong on sticking with the following the law, and we've also been all about limiting government spending as well. So those two things combined um, led us to a place where Republicans were divided and fractured. So last year we did a little bit better, as you know, with the PFD, and we supported all the key budget votes and the budget itself. Interestingly, some of the people now in the bipartisan majority, they voted against key budget votes, which is really interesting because as the reports came out in the last week, 10 days, it indicated that we had not supported the budget, but actually there were key budget votes that various majority members voted against, including those that are now in leadership and co-chairs. So kind of fun factoid there. So that occurs, and there is conversation actually while we're still in Juneau. We're hearing rumblings of a bipartisan coalition back in March and April, May. So we know it's something being discussed heavily. So over the summer, one of the things I did is I would check in with our various Republican colleagues to discuss various policies, not the PFD, but other policies around which we could coalesce. Because frankly, there's some good ideas some of the bipartisan majority members have had where we could agree. And so we, talking about how as Republicans we should come around, other items other than the PFD. Then comes November 8th, and watching how the tallies are coming down on the screen, realizing who is getting elected. I kind of knew that there were 5 seats, Michael, that were pretty key to having a strong Republican majority that would be pretty conservative, fairly
Right.
conservative, not far, off the edge, right, but pretty strong conservative. Well, we lost those 5 seats. And so looking, I realized that, oh my goodness, as far as the PFD, they have probably 13, 14 votes for reducing the PFD in the Senate. So what I realized was, the PFD should no longer be a point of contention in the Senate chamber because those who wanted to reduce it in the Senate had won that battle for this legislative cycle. So if you take that off the table, there you don't have the point of contention, right? And so I started reaching out to my Republican colleagues who I knew had been discussing a bipartisan coalition to make that point, and working with Senator Rob Myers and Senator Mike Shower, we talked about how we could come together to pass a budget with these folks because we had heard one of their big sticking points, and actually we'd heard it over the summer in interviews that they were talking about insisting on a majority that had a binding rule. So now we've got the PFD off the table. Now we have to figure out what can we propose that doesn't take us back to an archaic binding rule that has some real ethical questions and be able to come up with a way to pass a budget. And we actually looked back I reflected back on when I was in the House, and the Speaker, Mike Chenault, kept a very diverse, I think we were 26, 27 members, and he was Speaker 8 or 10 years, but he kept a group really diverse. And part of it is as you decide whether you were coming into the caucus, you agreed on a target amount for the budget. And then if something came up during the course of time that you had to alter that, you spent the time to discuss that until you got consensus. So you didn't come in blindly and hand the co-chairs a blank check. So we made the proposal that we do that we actually, based on James Kaufman, had a spending cap constitutional amendment. He had to spend the same thing in a statute. So we were proposed following that would keep the operating budget from getting out of hand, and proposing that we put the PFD in a separate bill, a small budget bill that would just be the PFD. And we proposed that over the phone, voicemails, texts, emails. And frankly, what happened is we didn't get a response. And it was right before, shortly before Thanksgiving, the afternoon before Thanksgiving. And we understood they were going to have their press conference on Friday. So here we are at the last minute. I'm getting a phone call and from one of the ones that was putting all this together, and basically was told they weren't interested in the proposal. And in fact, they didn't even, there were not 11 people to come into the room to even have a dialogue about it. And I said, well, we're willing. So who in your 8 is not willing? And they refused to say, just basically said that I could figure it out. There weren't 11 to come in a room. So they refused to have a conversation about it. And strangely, a few of the members I spoke with on the phone and discussed, I explained the proposal, and they listened, but they didn't respond or engage about it. So there was no back and forth like, oh, that would be a good idea, or yeah, I could see how that would work. So there really was not any interest in trying to figure out a way to go forward. It was a foregone conclusion that they were going to have a bipartisan coalition. So that's all went down last week with that announcement. And it is not fun getting kicked in the gut by
Right.
your colleagues. It just isn't. It's different when if let's say there were 11 Democrats that were elected, and a few Republicans went over to create a buffer of a majority, that would have been a little bit different. But when you have 11 out of 20 elected, numerically, you've got that majority. And so that's what your expectation is. And I'll just make another point and then be quiet so you can respond. But one of the fascinating things is all other state legislators in 49 states, and I'll throw in there the U.S. House and U.S. Senate, as soon as the numerical advantage by one seat is won by one party, it is automatic that party will control that chamber. There's not a discussion. There's not this back and forth horse trading. It is either, if the Democrats get the majority, they control it. If the Republicans get it, they control it. So this started back in the, apparently there was a time where it happened in the 60s and the 70s, and the Democrats actually had the numerical advantage then, and it happened a couple times. I don't have the information of exactly the makeup, but then in the last 30 years, every time it's happened in the last 30 years, it has been Republicans who have walked away from some of their colleagues and empowered Democrats. So that's what's gone on in the last 30 years. It's been Republicans who've done it. And it is frustrating. It's, the House right now is going through the same thing. And I thought, wow, sure would be nice like these other states where you watch the votes come in, and then you just know that it's going to be one party or the other. And there's not this shenanigans going on, these games being played, this big, long, stretched out delay that occurs every year. So it's a bad habit that's developed. And the Republicans are the ones who had the bad habit in the last 30 years.
It's interesting because, again, you were talking about your last minute reach out and all this kind of stuff, Thanksgiving Day and everything that you were doing. And then you said it was kind of a foregone conclusion. And I quite honestly, I think this was a foregone conclusion in the spring. I mean, I was hearing about, I heard all the details of this coalition 4 weeks before they even announced it. It was like, oh, it's done. They're just waiting for it was, and they were not even listening. It was like, la, 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 la. I can't hear you because we're going to do what we're going to do. And it's just astonishing that's kind of where we're at. And the fact that you had a legitimate offer that, you tried to make compromises, you tried to come into the middle and meet with them, and they just had no interest in it. And to me, that is the most shocking thing. I mean, somebody in the chat room just said something like, here we are. It's amazing. We've elected a full Republican majority, and the Democrats have the majority of the committee assignments. They've got control. They've got a 9-8 majority in the caucus. I mean, this is a problem that I think is bigger than just in the legislature of what we're happening. And I want to talk about that, but we are up against the break. So we're going to continue here in just a second. Shelley Hughes is our guest. The Michael Duke Show continues. It is your home for common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Make sure you come check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Michael Duke Show, or you head on over to YouTube and subscribe and ring the bell over there so you get notifications when we go live. We'll return with Shelley Hughes in just a moment.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Shelley Hughes is our guest, and we're gonna try to be calm and collected about this. I mean, there are some people in there who I think are being pretty joyful, and again, I don't want to put words in Shelley's mouth, so I'm not gonna call out some of these folks right now. I will later because I have the ability to do that. And unfortunately, Shelley and company have got to work with these folks. So, and I know we were laughing the other day because it's a known fact apparently in Juneau that there are people sitting next to the radio listening to this broadcast, scribing all the notes on all the things that we're talking about. And if you say one bad thing, it's apparently gets back to everybody about it. And that's a horrific thing. And it's honestly quite chilling on kind of the free speech aspect of things. And I don't know if you want to comment on that, Shelley, but I do find it irritating from a free speech perspective that people are mincing your words or again, twisting what you're saying. I think that's got to be the ultimate in frustration as an elected official.
Yeah, because we're not always going to be in agreement with all of our colleagues. I mean, that's the nature of representative democracy and the ability to represent each of our districts. So that is to be expected. And as I've said before on your show, it's someone that disagrees with me on the PFD, for instance, they have every right in the world to do that. They're supposed to represent their district. And if that's what their constituent wants, they should be free. And that is their right. And I respect that. The voters send us here. And that's our job, is to be listening to what our district wants. So there you go. So talking about disagreeing with someone, I think that is perfectly fine. When I just had the national news on what's happening with Elon Musk and Apple wanting to take off the app and the impact that would have. Free speech is a cherished right and very fundamental to our nation and to our republic, our constitutional republic. So, hey, you got to protect it.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it seems like to some people, free speech is only the speech that they like. That's what it comes down to. I mean, free speech is only speech that they agree with. If it's speech that they don't agree with, it's hate speech, or it's derogatory, or it's not decorous, or it's, all these, it violates decorum, or, whatever it is. And that's the thing. We've lost the ability in this country to agree to disagree. And I think that's shattering. And I think that has led to the polarization that we're seeing. You can't just look at somebody and say, I agree to disagree, because if you disagree with them, for many people, you immediately become the enemy. If you disagree with them, it's not just there's shades of gray, or we can find other things that we can agree on. You disagree with them on one thing, you're evil.
Hey, and what the word of the year is? Have you heard what the word of the year is for 2022? According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it is gaslighting. And one of the things I have realized and I've experienced by those who are very liberal trying to beat up on me is they try to present things like I'm crazy, like I'm really off what is the current thinking and what is normal because of what I believe. And as those on the right when you think about it, we haven't changed our platform. I am the same I was when I first got elected, and my principles are the same as my parents when I was growing up. So we've kind of stayed steady. It's the left that's gone more left. They don't seem to understand that, and they've really moved away. And they seem to have the microphone right now and are trying to make everybody think that what they believe is normal and good, and everybody that is believing these steady principles that are good for economic growth and for strong families, strong communities, that we are the ones that are nuts, and they're trying to gaslight us. And we just have to not be intimidated. We have to be bold, and we have to grab that microphone.
Shelley Hughes is our guest. We're about to rejoin the Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Shelley Hughes is our guest here on the program. Senator from Palmer. We're talking. We were just talking about the formation of the bipartisan coalition and everything that's going on. And again, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here, but Shelley, as you pointed out, as you pointed out, in every other state, in the U.S. Congress, and every place else, the second that that a member of a party or that the balance tips in one vote or one seat, they automatically take control. And it seems like the Republicans have got a huge history in this state of circling the wagons and shooting each other. My question is, how much of this do you place on the shoulders of the party itself? That, I mean, we've got people who've been censured by their own districts who are then, in fact, receiving money from the party to go back to office, even though they're under censure. We've got people who've been censured by the entire party in the state who have run for office under the banner. I could just go on and on. Lukewarm responses from the chair of the party about attacks on the Republican endorsed candidate in a race. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. How much of this is a internal problem with the Alaskan Republican Party?
Well, I'll start by saying it's not like the Republican Party, the leadership waltzed in from Washington, D.C. or something like this. We are, those of us who are registered, we are the party. And if something's going wrong, it's because not enough of us are involved and having influence. So I'll start out by saying that. So there's work to do. If someone doesn't agree with what's going on, they need to show up. And, we have our local district meetings, and we're supposed to be for a grassroots bottom-up organization, but often there are not precinct chairs serving, for instance. So, we have to take responsibility for it. And one of the things, and as we've watched, and I don't really know in prior decades whether people were being censored or not. I think of it more something that's been happening in recent years. But one of the things that you walk away, you always debrief after an election. One of the things you have to conclude based on who got elected, that censoring itself doesn't work. If you don't have some kind of consequences or action attached to it, it doesn't really work. It's necessary if you're going to endorse one Republican over another. Well, yeah, I guess it would be. Actually, no, I think they could endorse one without censoring the other, but it should create a clear delineation. But if that's not communicated back in the district to those that aren't necessarily engaged, like we are, following everything, they have to be informed during the campaign cycle. And that's not really happening. So that's a discussion, I think, that as a debrief over what happened. I would like there to be some kind of something that would help. We can say, well, just leave it to the elected officials who are elected, through relationships, trying to figure it out. But it keeps repeating. It's a bad habit that Republicans have developed. I don't care if there are 11 or 12 or even 13 Republicans elected in a 20-person Senate. This habit of trying to figure out if you don't get the seat you want, or things aren't going exactly the way you want, then you start trying to caucus with Democrats. That's a habit that's developed. And I don't know how the party could help with that, but I think they ought to think about it and see if there's a way they could attach some action to censoring someone. Yeah.
One of the things we've just discussed this morning is, the plan. What is the plan moving forward, right? I mean, for those of us who are smaller government conservatives in the state, because it was a little shocking to me, Shelley. I'll be honest with you. It was a little shocking for me to realize that I am now in a minority in this state. I mean, I thought the vast majority of Alaskans, you've talked about the silent majority in the past. I thought the vast majority of Alaskans believed like I did, that, they just want government out of the way, the smallest, most limited government possible, yada, yada, yada. And I have discovered that, no, I'm in a minority here. And part of that plan that we're talking about is, what do we do moving forward? And I think two callers nailed it this morning when they said, look, we got to stop looking back, stop blaming other things, whether it's elections or whatever. We got to stop blaming other things. We got to look forward at what we want to move forward. But I think you're absolutely right that especially after an election like this, we at least need to have a little after action review to figure out what went wrong so that we could fix it moving forward. And what exactly happened. And you mentioned that there were 5 seats that were critical to the Senate, and we lost all 5 seats. And the question is, why? Why do you think we lost all 5 seats? Why do you think that we had the lowest voter turnout I haven't seen it from the numbers that they on the actual certification day when they did that, but prior to that, it was basically the lowest turnout since they've been tracking turnouts on a major general election. So why do you think that happened? Why did we lose those 5 seats? Why are more business as usual, spend as we go Republicans taking the seats of strong, proven, recorded conservatives? Why is it happening, and how do we reverse it?
Well, I think one of the factors was there was a lot of dark money coming in on the left side, and there'll be analysis of that we'll see how it was funneled to various candidates and PACs. And I'll just point out too, we're number 2 in the state as far as union members per capita. And that's a ready funding source and actually troops on the ground to help. So we have to face some of those facts, I think, and we have to learn how to maybe play the game a little bit differently, like the Democrats play it. And they did a lot of early voting. They were out there collecting ballots. I understand that there was one race, I don't remember which one it was. Oh, I think it was Forrest Wolf, the House race, where right at the last minute, there were 200 ballots that came in together, and I believe they were all for the Democrat. And, those were probably ballot harvesting. Well, there's nothing against the law as far as going to an assisted living home or going to people at a church or at some congregate location and encouraging people to vote and getting them to fill out their ballots. There's nothing illegal about that. Republicans haven't done that. Conservatives haven't done that. So maybe that's something where we need to, if it's allowed under the law and the Democrats are doing it, we maybe need to step up in the plate and start doing those kind of things. So yeah, there are a lot of things like that I think we have to analyze as far as differently. And why people didn't show up, I don't know if it was the flood of information that caused people to go numb, where people, I was hearing just the flood of, depending how you're registered is the amount of mail you get, right? So if you're just, everybody in your household's just registered as a Democrat, you're probably only going to get things for Democrats, and the same thing for Republicans, only Republicans. But if you've got an undeclared, or if you've got a mix, the amount of mail that people were getting was astronomical. I think there's a numbness that sets in. I think that's part of it. The Gen Z generation picked up across the nation, and I believe it was 70% were leaning left. So we've got to have conversations with young people. And actually, they were tended actually a few years ago to lean slightly right, strangely, that younger group. So, yeah. And, back to the organization, Michael, one of the points that I think is important for people to understand is that 65% of the voters in Alaska cast their vote for a Republican to represent them in the state Senate. 65% of voters. And that indicates that the voters want a right of center majority, right?
Right.
And so for those that crossed over and formed a left of center majority, that's concerning. That's defying what the voters have stated. And I can't think of anything really much more arrogant than that as far as an elected official is ignoring what the voters' wishes are. So that's troubling. And I think that's part of this bad habit that's developed in this state is when we start to ignore what the voters are speaking statewide. So I just wanted to make that point because that's a pretty stunning number. 65% is a very, very strong majority. You could use the word overwhelming, I think, when you hit 65%.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I agree. And I think this all stems from what I call the politician's disease, which is the idea that they somehow in their their beneficence have figured out that they know better than us how the money should be spent, that they know better than you. And really, I think you're even seeing it inside of the legislature. You have certain legislators who believe that their way is the only way and that anybody that disagrees with them is the enemy, and not just wrong, but they basically needs to be shunted to the closet and silenced. And this is really the ultimate of that kind of feeling. And I mean, that's what I'm seeing right now. We know better than you how you should spend this. You're going to get a dividend, the biggest dividend that we can afford. After, of course, we spend all this money on these state services that, and education, of course, is topping the list right now, even though we already spend exponentially ever increasing amounts of money on education and still have the most pitiful results in the country. With no consequences and no holding to accountability. It's astonishing, but I think this is really at the base of that.
Yeah, I agree, Michael. And I just want to say I made the point. And I want to make the point and clear something up because it was in publications and noted across the state the two reasons why the three of us are not in the majority, because supposedly we couldn't work well together. And secondly, because we didn't vote for this year's budget. And I mentioned when we first came on that actually it was members of the majority who failed to press the yes button on key budget votes. And actually, there were some prior years where the three of us did not press the yes button on some key budget votes. But you have to throw Senator Hoffman in that camp also. So to me, that reason falls apart. So now you look at, they don't work well with others. Well, that one falls apart too, because you can look at some very key things that have occurred that the conservatives actually led, and we had to work with others to get them through. Case in point, the repeal of SB 91. The conservatives led that. I was Judiciary Chair. Senator Schauer was on that committee and carried a large amount of the water. Senator Costello was often the spokesperson on the floor. Senator Reinbold was carrying that banner for a couple years leading up. And we actually led that charge and did it. And then even this year, there were various things where we worked with other Republicans and across the aisle as well to get needed money for infrastructure that was overlooked at the finance table. For the port of in Anchorage, the port of Nome for national security purposes, for our fast growing area for roads. We also, the sexual assault, where we provided a much needed tool to prosecutors to get rapists off the street. We worked, the conservatives led that and made that happen. That was dying in both finance committees, and we resurrected it on the floor through an amendment and got it passed. So you have to be able to work together to get those kind of achievements. The Food and Farm Caucus, I was working with more than half of the legislature, 31 out of 60 were part of that caucus. And we got some ag pieces through. The most progress, I'd say, in ag in the whole time I've been serving. So we do work well together, is that point. And so what is the reason? The reason is our stand on the PFD paired with our desire to see overall spending reined in, because there are some majority members who are really good champions of the PFD, Bill Welakowski, case in point. But the difference with us is that we also want to limit spending overall. And I think that was the rub. And it was that policy disagreement. And I want to say one more thing, and then I'll hush up so you can respond, is that part of our proposal, as well as putting the PFD in a separate budget and picking a target amount and sticking to it for the operating budget, is we were also proposing, we gave them a list and said there could be other ideas, and these are other policy priorities around which we could coalesce, which members of the bipartisan coalition, like I said earlier, they had. One of them, for instance, reducing healthcare costs. I know that's something Senator Wilson has wanted to do. Lowering in a tangible way energy costs, that was Senator Bishop. So there were some good things we could have coalesced around.
Senator Shelley Hughes is our guest. We're going to continue with her in the next segment. We're going to talk about where we go from here. What does this next session look like? What are we going to be fighting for? We'll be back with more of The Michael Duke Show. Common Sense Radio.
What is that?
Common Sense. Regularly heard on American radio. Michael Duke Show. Radio.
Okay, sorry about that. Had to do something real quick. Shelley, let me demystify this for some of the listeners, because I think this whole doesn't work well with others is code for doesn't agree with me. It's code for doesn't believe that the PFD is government's money to spend as they please. That is code for doesn't believe that we need to turn to government for, again, this is the narrative, right? The only way society can move forward is with the direct benevolent intervention of government, which is, again, code for we've got to have government spending on everything, because society just can't move forward without that. We couldn't on our own figure it out for ourselves. We need that direct benevolent intervention of government in our lives at every level. And I think that is the code that we're talking about. When you say doesn't work well with others, it means we are principled, are taking a stand on certain things, and won't do what we want them to do. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think that is, and I think it's the two things paired together, the following law on the PFD and limited spending. I think those were the two where there was an agreement. And so here we are. And, where do we go here from here? It's going to be interesting. It's interesting session going from being Senate Majority Leader to getting kicked to the curb and figuring out, what's my new role. And so I've been thinking a lot about that and how we can move forward. Yeah.
It's again, to me, this whole thing looks like more and more like a temper tantrum. It really looks like you didn't want to play with me by the rules that I wanted to play with, so we're going to shut you out. And then we're going to say it's because you don't play well with others, even though, again, you just laid out a bunch of stuff. I know Shower was working with people like Chris Tuck on his election integrity bill. I mean, there was a lot of working across the aisles. Rob Myers is probably one of the smartest, most inoffensive people that I've ever met. And yet all of a sudden, Rob Myers doesn't play well with others. And I just like, it's insane to hear this kind of commentary. And unfortunately, the powers that be seem to have the newspapers at their beck and call. And so you can't even get things corrected. I know they said, well, you didn't vote for the budget last year. Well, no, you did vote for the budget last year. You didn't vote for it the year before, but you also pointed out that there were people who are in the majority now that didn't vote for the budget last year. And yet the paper gets corrected to say not that, throughout the years, several legislators have not voted for the budget. Instead, it was, oh, okay, we'll just change it from this year to last year. They didn't even talk. I mean, there's no intellectual honesty, it seems, in a lot of the things that are being discussed right now.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I'm grateful for your show, for the conservative talk shows. I'm grateful for Must Read Alaska. I'm grateful for Alaska Watchman. And frankly, as much as we can get things out on social media, because a lot of people don't listen to those these shows and read these publications. And one of the things is Senator Myers has done Facebook Lives, as Senator Sauer has. And my hashtag for a number of years has been telling it like it is. So we will do our best to keep people aware of what is happening, and so they can decide for themselves as far as what's happening on the floor and with policy and bills. How the House organizes will be huge as far as the end result. And then what kind of stand will our governor take? He will have the ability to veto line item in the budget, but also to veto bills. And what will he decide to do? And he's in a second term. He doesn't have to worry about getting reelected. And so we may see a Dunleavy 2.0 here.
Well, unless his eye is on the prize for something bigger, like a Senate seat or something else. And then, there's a lot of speculation going. We hashed this out earlier in the week that, what happens? Dunleavy could be the stumbling block for a bigger government legislature. But the question is, will he? And past performance is indicative of future results. And unfortunately, I have not been encouraged by Dunleavy's actions after that first year. They've all been very, it's all been very go along to get along. You're right. He's in a lame duck. Maybe this is the opportunity. But if he's planning on going to some higher office down the road, maybe he doesn't want to rock the boat. Or maybe he rocks the boat to try and engage those more conservative people in the state. I don't know. I really don't. This is all speculation at this point.
Well, I'm hoping it's the latter. And I think we will see a difference. And, as a tiny minority in the Senate, we hope to work with him. We worked with him the last 4 years consistently and have good relationship. So, yeah. And, that baffles me too, as far as the bipartisan coalition. It's like you're starting off on the wrong foot with your governor when you do that kind of thing, especially when you ostracize some of the people from his home stomping ground, the Mat-Su. It's kind of an odd thing to do. But it is what it is.
Shelley Hughes, our guest. Here we go. All right, one final segment here this morning with Shelley Hughes, who joins us, senator from Palmer, part of the new, I don't know what you would even call it. It's not a real majority because an official majority, I guess you could explain this to us, Shelley. An official majority is 5 or more, right? That's the official, because as 5 minority. Or more. Yeah, the minority. I'm sorry. Did I say majority? I meant minority. Anything that's 5 or more, they are required to offer you seats on various committees. But because you're less than 5, they don't have to offer you anything. You guys are sitting in your offices, twiddling your thumbs, waiting for something to happen. And you can do stuff on the floor, but that's pretty much it, right?
Right. So we're unofficial. I will say it looks like we're going to get the staffing that an official minority will get. So that's good news. We're each giving, I believe we're each being given a chair. I'm not a chair. Oh, that's wishful thinking. A seat on a committee. So I believe Senator Myers is going to be on the Transportation Committee. I'm going to be on the Education Committee. And I believe Senator Sauer was offered a seat on the State Affairs Committee. So we each get one. And when I look back 10 years ago when this happened, that was also the pattern. They each got one committee and one finance subcommittee. So we'll probably each get one finance subcommittee as well. And we don't get a press secretary. It's just, even the process on the floor when the, minority leader stands up to object or different things. We're not sure how they're going to run the floor when we're an unofficial minority, right?
Right. Well, so lay out for us what you see coming ahead. I mean, now you know the players. You've been working with them for years. You've seen, what there are some new ones there, but the ones that are in control. You've worked with them for years. You know what they're about. What do you see coming in this next session specifically, or two, but really this next session? What do you see that are things that are going to be the big contentious points? How are you guys going to fight back on it? What are we going to do? What do we as citizens who are smaller government conservative voters, what do we do? Give us your take on what you see coming down the road.
Yep. Part of as all this has come down is for me to figure out, what is my new role, and that's our conversation with Senator Myers and Showers. How do we move forward? We do not have the influence and power. Our bills likely will not get any hearings, and if they get a courtesy hearing, they'll probably just sit in a committee after that. And so we understand that we may be able to do some amendments, trying to work with others to improve things, perhaps on the floor. But our main roles will probably be to be a watchdog, and then to use our voices to highlight what's going on, so Alaskans are aware, and so they can weigh in. Maybe if sometimes things just go unnoticed down in Juneau, and so we can bring those things to the Alaskans' attention, and that's probably going to be our most important role at this point. The items, Michael, that they're talking about, if you listen to the press conference that the bipartisan coalition had on Friday, it looks pretty clear that they're looking at increasing education funding. There was no discussion of any accountability piece with that. It was just increasing the funding. And then the second thing that I think is likely going to move, just when I count noses, there are the votes to return to defined benefits for state employees. And I think in the House, I think there probably are two as well, because although there's 21 Republicans elected, I think that former Speaker Louise Stutes has been supportive of that. I'm not sure, but if she is, then you add her to the Democrats, and in the 20 Democrats independents, bingo, you're at 21 there. So between the two bodies, returning to defined benefits is an interesting one. Is that a bill that the governor might veto if it comes through? I'm sure it's one that's going to be discussed. I don't think the governor wants to take us down that path. There's potential. The cost of that is great. I will say my understanding is Senator Stedman does not support that. I'm hoping that he can help stop it, but the numbers in the Senate, I think there are more than 11 supporting it. So I'm not sure if he will be able to stop it. And the way the Finance Committee, and you've maybe discussed this on your show, but it's unique in that the Senate Finance Committee will have 3 co-chairs. So Senator Stedman will be over the operating budget, Senator Hoffman over the capital budget, and Senator Donnie Olson over the bills coming through. So for instance, Senator Stedman wouldn't be able to stop a bill. Senator Olson can hear the bill. He'll be making those decisions.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to watch, and that's that's my big concern, of course, because the return to defined benefits opens the floodgates up for more of that liability that we've talked about in the past. And of course, they're going to start it with just first responders, and maybe they'll add teachers in, but it could then eventually go back to the whole state. And this is a problem that we've been facing for years, that we still have a multi-billion-dollar unfunded liability from the first go around. And they'll say, oh, we've learned, don't worry, it'll all be fine. But we know that defined benefits plans, as a general rule, don't work anywhere in the country, and in fact have been abandoned in most places. Final thoughts here, down to the last 2.5 minutes here. The formation of the House. Do you have any? I mean, you just mentioned it, Louise Stutes. She has consistently jumped on to the Democratic side of the fence. It's a thin majority right now, 21. If the Jennifer Armstrong case gets challenged, we'll see what happens there. They only have a couple more days to where they can challenge that. I know we're waiting on the Eastman thing. Where do you think the House ends up at? And then final thoughts here as we wrapped up.
Well, and also the Liz Vasquez, I don't know if she's going to refile any kind of thing. These court cases are expensive, and there's no legal fund on the conservative side for some of these, but the Liz Vasquez race is one that maybe you mentioned, the Eastman, and then the Tom McKay, the recount. So there's 3 of them in play. So I think until those matters settle, or at least 2 of the 3 settle, you're not going to see any movement. So they're going to have to sit tight, is my guess. One of the things about the Republicans compared to a couple of years ago, I think they're more bonded. The group that are coming back, they're unified, and they've really worked tightly during the campaign season. So even the new ones are getting more bonded. I think they maybe were a bit all over the map a couple of years ago. So that's an advantage. The other advantage that I think may be happening is that some of the Democrats that were elected are more to the left. So they're more AOC types of Democrats. We have the same thing happen in the Senate, by the way, significant shift to the left among the Democrats and the Republicans. But, somebody like Josiah Pakatak, he's actually from a pretty conservative family. I'm not sure he really wants to be in a majority with some that are so extremely left. So that might be to their advantage. So we'll see.
Shelley Hughes, thank you for coming on board. We appreciate it. Good luck in this exercise in frustration. I'm sure it's going to be interesting, to say the least. Folks, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for coming on board the Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio. Be kind, love one another, live well. All right, Shelley, 2 minutes here. I'll give you the final thoughts here on this because, this is what the ideal would be, that we do get a Republican majority in the House, and then it kind of creates that gridlock, which is good for Alaskans, harder on you guys for sure, but that would be the ultimate. If not, if they end up with a bipartisan coalition in the House, then it's up to the governor. And as I stated here, I'm not encouraged by his past behavior. I mean, I would like to see that he could be the stumbling block. He could do a lot of those things, but I just don't know if he will. And of course, he hasn't come on the program in months. And well, I mean, I'd love to talk to him about it, but we just don't know where he's going to go. So I'll give you a chance to recap and final thoughts and everything else. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. I want to say hello to all the people that are monitoring us from perhaps the bipartisan coalition, some of the staff, because I knew, like you said, you're pretty popular, Michael. They watch, so I just thought I'd say hi to them.
And by popular, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means. I think hate it was the word that you thought, but that's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So moving forward, there are a lot of unknowns, but one of the things is that the more engaged people are, the better. When I look ahead at, and I've been one about talking, you got to wake up the sleeping giant, the silent majority. I still believe, even though the legislature is very purple right now, that I don't think that the populace is at this point. That I think that we aren't as deep red as we used to be, because by virtue of the expansion of Medicaid, 1 out of 3 is on Medicaid. And I think I remember hearing a statistic that there's a certain percentage, as you add people to Medicaid, a certain percentage of those people will become really great Democrat voters. And so that's happened here. And with Biden's suppression of resource development in our state, we've lost private sector folks who tend to be Republican. So we've got that working against us. But I really think when you've got low voter turnout, that we're not really getting a good cross-cut of who is here. And I think that, as people become more informed, and, by the way, low information voters are not stupid. They're just busy. And so part of the task is to make sure that people are aware of how going to the polls or not going to the polls impacts them at the ground level as far as their families. So that's one of our tasks, is to make sure people are aware of that over the next 2 years, and try to get some of those folks engaged. And and then, like we said earlier, learning to play the game a little bit differently. I think that will be important. But it's going to be an interesting couple of years, Michael, and we're buckling up for the ride.
Folks, there's 50 of you here in the chat room, and of course, all the problems we have with Facebook today paints the picture as to why, if you're not subscribed to this YouTube channel, you should be. Subscribe and ring the bell. Before I let you go, subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notifications when we go live. And if Facebook crashes like it did this morning, then you'll be all set to go because you can just go over to YouTube. So please subscribe and ring the bell before you leave this morning. Shelley Hughes, thanks. I mean, I have hope, question mark, for the upcoming session. I don't know what's going on, but we're not going to stop what we're doing. We're going to keep going. We're going to, we're going to keep fighting the fight. I just hope that, I hope that you guys stay strong and are able to avoid the frustration that I expect that you're going to be handed here this next year.
Thank you, Michael.
It's always good to talk with you. Thank you so much, folks. We're out of time for today. The Michael Duke Show continues tomorrow, 6 a.m. Be here. Again, don't forget, subscribe, ring the bell, and get notifications on YouTube. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. We'll see you tomorrow. The Michael Duke Show.
We've shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.